This is Football Night in America, served by Applebee's.
Into the FNIA podcast served by Applebee's. You know, the Hall of Famer, Coach Dungy, in my opinion, the soon-to-be Hall of Famer, Hall of Fame semifinalist over on the other side, and Rodney Harrison. Guys, we're coming off the Harbaugh Bowl here on Monday Night Football. I enjoyed watching it. They mentioned it about 762 times that these two were brothers. We had it by halftime, but I tell you what, it continues to be John. It continues to be Baltimore that's getting the best of them. Rodney, I'll start with you. Your opening thoughts on Monday Night Football and the way the Ravens got it done.
Well, the Ravens actually learned from watching the Eagles and that big offensive line when they went against the Rams. Just run the football. Give it to your best player. And I thought Todd Monken did that. And I've been saying this for the life of me. I don't understand why he's trying to save Derrick Henry, coach, for down the line. Every game, Derrick Henry needs to touch the ball at least 20 times. I don't care if he's catching it. I don't care if he's running through the holes, because eventually he's going to pop off a couple big runs.
Well, when we had the Chargers, we said Jim Harbaugh had brought this tough mentality and this bully mentality, and that's the way the Chargers played. And I think what happened is the Ravens said, we can't let that happen. We got to take bully ball into our own hands. And they brought the run game. They brought the toughness. They outran and outfought the Chargers last night.
Yeah. There was that fourth down at about their own 20 before halftime. And Harbaugh, I can't say Harbaugh, the Ravens, John Harbaugh, pump faked like he was going to go for it. And then they go out there and they really didn't go for it. They gave him the fake snap count. And then he puts the offense back out there and they go with the tight end sneak. That was one of the most bold calls that I had seen. I thought it flipped the game right before halftime, and really they took the Chargers out of the rhythm and took the Chargers out of the lead, Coach.
And I think that sent a message. Okay, we've got to make 2 feet, and we can do it. And even though we're at our 17-yard line and would give you momentum if we don't make it, this is what we believe. We think we're tougher than you, and we're going to go out there and get that yard. And I do think that swung the game.
I like when the Ravens come out and they're not trying to make it all about Lamar. And you think about Mark Andrews, coach, there's no reason, as talented and as big as he is, there's no reason why he should ever go a game without at least 4 to 5 targets. He's such a good target. And for them to get him back involved in the game, I thought was big. Rashad Bateman continues to make big plays down the field. And, you know, I love Zay Flowers and getting him involved, taking a couple shots down the field, getting him involved with some quick wide receiver screens. Those are the things that you have to do to get your best players involved and take the ball out of Lamar's hands at times.
Yeah, it's a tough job for that offensive coordinator, but it's just like we talked about with Philadelphia. You got all these guys, and that's great to get them the ball. But when they're using that formula, there's 40 runs and 25 passes. Then that's winning football for the Ravens. And you can't go in thinking, well, I've got Flowers, I've got Likely, I've got Andrews, I've got all these guys, so I got to throw 50 passes. No, run the football, do that first, and then set those guys up. And it's just like A.J. Brown was telling us, hey, you might only have 2 or 3 shots, so get it into the end zone when you get the ball. And I think that's the way these guys are feeling.
And I thought defensively too, Coach, I thought Zach Orr, he came up out of his shell a little bit. You start to see more pressures. You start to see different guys, corners, nickels, blitzing. And that's what you have to have. You have to have some creativity and some aggressiveness. And you got to put the pressure on your guys. Say, hey, man, we're going after this guy. The ball's going to come out quick. Make sure that you take care of your guy. Make sure you tackle him. But I love his approach. I think he's coming out of his shell a little bit.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And I do think that they watched Justin Herbert kind of dissect Cincinnati, run into those alleys and make big plays throwing. And Zach Orr said, no, we're not going to have that. We're bringing 5, 6 guys, and we're getting the ball out of your hands.
Yeah. All right, so besides Baltimore, let's take a look at who is eating good in the neighborhood. This is served by Applebee's. It's got to be the revival of the running back. And what's been interesting about this position is that nobody wants to pay running backs anymore, right? So they get off their first deal, their rookie deal, and they end up having to go to a new team. And typically they're probably not getting paid what they probably should be getting paid, just because people have decided that you can rotate in new, younger running backs that are cheaper as they get later in their career. But now we're seeing guys like Saquon and Derrick Henry and Josh Jacobs and Tony Pollard and Aaron Jones and Joe Mixon and J.K. Dobbins that are having this revival in the second team. So what do we think it is? Coach, I'll start with you. What do you think it is with this running back position right now?
Well, the backs are eating good. And I'll tell you, I go back to Bill Polin, my boss in Indy, and he always used to say, we can draft good players, but we need to pay for special. And if you've got a special guy, you need to pay him. And I think we've seen this year, Saquon Barkley is special. Okay, Derrick Henry is special. Josh Jacobs is special. And it's easy to say, oh, we'll get another guy like that. But they don't grow on trees. And so sometimes you might have to change your philosophy and pay those guys. And I think Philadelphia and Baltimore are very, very happy they paid those two.
I think defensively, if you ask any defensive player or coach, you'll see that we always thought that the running back was a premium position. I never never thought that the running back position should be taken away because you don't want to be one-dimensional. That's tough on a defense when you're able to run the football and pass the football. Offensively, I think a lot of times they want to get more talented guys or a faster guy on the field and say, hey, we don't need a star running back. But I think that you've seen, like Coach said, Saquon is special. And that's why I kept saying, this dude is the best player on the planet. There's nobody that can do the things that he can do on a football field. I haven't seen it. And then you look at Derrick Henry. Yeah, he might get stopped 6 or 7 times, but I tell you, he's guaranteed. He's going to break one. He's going to break a couple. And that gets the whole team pumped up. It gets the whole team excited. And it sends a message. They wore the Chargers down. That small defensive front, they constantly wore them down. They frustrated them. And you saw the Chargers, they were tired. They were, their heads were down. And it was just a different thing, Coach.
Well, I totally agree with you, Rodney. And yeah, when you game plan for a great receiver, you're going against a Randy Moss, you got to take him out of the game, but you always say, we can double team this guy. I'll put a safety over the top, whatever. You go up against Barry Sanders or an Earl Campbell, and it doesn't matter. You can double team, do whatever you want. Those guys give you a headache. So that running back, we always felt that was a tough guy to game plan for.
All right, so let's see these notable running backs, 2024. They're on different teams. There's Saquon and what he's been able to do. He's in that MVP race. Derrick Henry right there behind him. He's really in the MVP race as well. We'll see how the rest of the year shakes out. But Jacobs, Pollard, Jones, Mixon, Dobbins. I mean, that's one heck of a crew that's all changing teams right there.
Yeah, and look at these guys too. I'm sorry,
yeah,
Rock,
and I was going to say Matt LaFleur, he wanted to upgrade the running back position, which I thought he did with Josh Jacobs, a younger guy and a guy that's a lot more physical. He's come in. He told me, hey, I'm doing a lot more than what I've done in the past. I'm catching balls out of the backfield. I'm just doing different things. And he loves the position that he's playing. When I look at the Green Bay Packers, continue to run the offense through Josh Jacobs and avoid those interceptions by your young quarterback.
Yeah. Now, if we could put that list up again for 1 minute and look at this, and not only look at the guys in the top 12, but look at the teams. And every one of those teams that they're on are playing better than they played last year. Okay, you pay a high-priced quarterback and bring him in. There's no guarantee you're going to get this, but the Eagles are better than last year. The Ravens are playing better than last year. The Packers are playing better than last year. Tennessee's not in the playoff hunt right at this moment, but they're playing better than last year. Minnesota, Aaron Jones is giving them a lift. Houston, man, you just go right down the line, and when you do hit on that running back and he brings you that identity, you're going to be a better offense. You're going to be a better team.
Yeah.
And Coach, these aren't young guys. These are all veteran players. These aren't the first-year players and second-year players. These are vets. So teams want to get away from playing veteran players, but at the end of the day, the vets have gone through it. They are leaders in the locker room. They've been there. They've done that, and you got to pay if you want good players.
And we've had a bunch of these guys on Sunday night, and when you talk to the players, oh, man, they rave about Saquon. They rave about Joe Mixon. They rave about Derrick Henry and what they brought to the team. So you're right. They're bringing more than just yards. They're bringing attitude.
So Coach, if you're the Giants, I sit back and think I just sit back and I think about the Giants, and you get a chance to see Saquon Barkley perform and practice his work ethic, him in the weight room, the way he carries himself around his teammates, and just being there on Sunday and talking to those guys. They said, oh my God, Saquon has been great. He's, if we get in trouble, we just hand it off. He's been a great leader. He's been a great teammate. He helps others. That's what you want from a guy. And it's just been tremendous for Saquon Barkley. If you're the Giants, how do you let something like that walk out of the door? You open up the checkbook and you say, who's the highest paid running back? We'll match that, because that's how we feel about you. And you set the tone in the locker room, but you also send a message in the locker room that, hey, we're not serious about winning. And if you're not serious about winning, guess what? So many guys in that locker room says, you know what, my back is hurting a little bit. I got a little strain on my hamstring. They're going to protect and save themselves, because they say, why should we go out there? We're on a 2-8 team or 2-9 team and risk my career and risk injuries. You don't want to do that, man. And that's why I don't understand how the Giants could get rid of a guy like that.
No, you bring up a great point, and there's a lot of people out there saying, well, Saquon Barkley wouldn't be putting up these kind of numbers in New York. They don't have the same offensive line, the same system. But we know what Saquon has been in that locker room. You know how the guys feel about him. And when that leaves, then that's tough to deal with. And I think emotionally, not having Saquon has taken a lot out of the Giants.
I think the point I want to make is that this quickly becomes a business. We all know the NFL. Everybody's trying to decide every year, okay, who are we going to pay? What position are we going to pay? And there had been an issue where, they paid Ezekiel Elliott in Dallas. That didn't work out. Todd Gurley got paid. That didn't work out. So teams started to have examples of guys that they paid at the running back position, and then they started getting hurt, or their production went down in the second half of their career. And so that's why this started. But now you're seeing the opposite example, where these guys are having, 25, 26, 27, 28, and they're still playing at a really high level. And all these guys are healthy. So my question would be, are we looking at a reset now of the running back market, where the Giants didn't pay Saquon and they're paying for it in a different way? Do you believe now that you'll start to see value come back to this position, Coach? What's your take on that?
I think it will, if we get offensive coordinators who understand what they have and play the game that way. Everybody's looking to throw the ball and do all this in the passing game. But if you realize, hey, I've got a special talent, I've got a Josh Jacobs, and I can run through him, and he's going to get 1,400 yards for us and set the tone. If these coordinators start calling the games like that, and these teams have some success and get to Super Bowls, I think you'll see it change a little bit.
Coach, you're right. And these offensive coordinators, they're trying to become head coaches. And head coaches, you're not getting hired if you run the football. If you get in a two-back I formation, what the Chargers did last night, and run a football, you're not going to be hired as a head coach. So that's why I get so frustrated with the Todd Munkins and the Kellen Moores of the world. Me and Coach, we're sitting there, and they're trying all these trick plays and all this silly stuff. And we look at each other and say, why don't you just hand the ball to Saquon? And then not even 20 seconds later, he's taking off for a 60-yard run. It's just, when you have a special player like that, you embrace him, you feed him the ball, you come up with creativity in the run game. You don't have to always sling the ball around. It's not about you becoming a head coach. It's about winning a championship and working your way towards that.
Yeah. If you win a championship, that's going to be your fastest route to becoming a head coach. Maybe I should take your advice, Rodney. Let's take a look at the playoff picture. This is the AFC playoff picture and what we have coming your way. And I like the way that Coach did this. He had the currently in the hunt, and then still a chance to get hot. So when you thought about those three categories, Coach, why is that you look at who could get into the playoffs and who's already in?
Well, the big thing is, you see these upsets we've seen during the course of the year. You want to get in the playoffs. If you get in, you can do some damage. And so I always look at the wild card situation. You've got 3 teams in there, 4 or 5 losses. Then you've got some other teams that are close. And when I was coaching, even if we weren't in it, you say, hey, this is the team we got to catch. We've got to win one more game than this team. We can do that. And so you just keep peppering your team with, we're still in this hunt. Let's play ball week in and week out. And Rodney, if you do that, by the end of the year, you can be in this thing.
Absolutely. And, I keep hearing people talk about the Kansas City Chiefs. They're done. They're this. I mean, this is a team that's used to going through adversity. And also, I look at the Denver Broncos. The Denver Broncos, I think they're in a really good situation, Coach, because nobody really expects them to do anything. When you play the Denver Broncos, they have a young quarterback. I think people take that for granted, or teams take that for granted. But this defense is good. Just overall, I think Sean Payton has done a good job of just stabilizing this team.
I agree with you, and they're right in the race right now, and it's going to be interesting coming down the stretch. We've got some big games coming up, but who can take care of business week in and week out and just keep climbing that ladder?
So currently in the AFC, we have the Ravens, the Chargers, and the Broncos. That in the hunt group is the Dolphins, the Colts, and the Bengals. Dolphins, Colts, Bengals. Rod, I'll start with you first. Of the in the hunt crew, who do you trust the most?
That's tough because it's hard for me because if we're in the springtime or the fall time and we don't have to worry about cold weather and snow, it's the Dolphins. But I know the Colts are a dome team. You know what? I'm gonna go with the Dolphins. I'm gonna go with the Dolphins. The offense that can score a lot of points. The defense is starting to improve a little bit. Calais Campbell and those guys. I'm gonna go with the Dolphins, Coach.
And I'm going to say, don't sleep on Cincinnati. We keep waiting for them to wake up. They're scoring points. They're moving the football. Their defense hasn't stepped up. But I think Coach Anarumo, I have confidence in him. If he can get that group going, they can put a little streak together, win 4 or 5 games down the stretch and get in. And if they get in, I promise you, nobody will want to play them.
Yeah. They're going to have to beat Pittsburgh probably twice. That's when you look at their schedule. It starts with this weekend. They got to play Pittsburgh. I'm with you. Pittsburgh's a bad matchup for them. It's a bad because they can't block Pittsburgh, right? I mean, that's a bad matchup for the Bengals. Wouldn't you think, Rod?
Yeah.
That's a bad matchup for a lot of people, especially with these pass rushers and how well they're playing on defense and trying to run the football. I like the Pittsburgh Steelers. Coach talked about them in the spring, and he said, hey, this is a team that you watch out for, even when they didn't really have a quarterback, and he was spot on. The Pittsburgh Steelers are a well-coached team, and they're hungry. I like them.
Yeah. And Coach, you also left us with this still have a chance if they get hot group, which is a fascinating way to look at it. And it's the Browns, the Jets, and the Titans. Do they still have a chance?
They really do. When you look at
crazy, Coach. Get out of here.
I'm telling you, there always somebody comes from this group, okay? And we kind of counted them out. They're done. And you look at the Cleveland Browns. Now, they have not played good football all year, but they've got 8 losses. If they can get it going, upset some teams. They beat Pittsburgh last week. Is it going to happen? Probably not, but you still have to have that hope, and that's what you preach as a coach. You know what? If we do this week in and week out, if we play like we played against Pittsburgh, we got a chance, and don't give up.
See, that's what made him a great coach. He's always so optimistic, always so positive. And you know what? The Browns, the Jets, and the Titans have no chance, Coach. As much as I love you, they have no chance. There's no way they're getting hot. There's no way they're making the playoffs.
They might not. But last week, okay, the Browns beat a playoff team, playoff contender. The Titans went into Houston and beat a playoff contender. So can they duplicate that? Can they do it every week? Probably not, because they haven't done it every week all year. But they still got to preach that.
They haven't done it all year, man. You expect them to do it now?
I like it. Hey, let's go to the NFC. We got the same thing on the other side, gentlemen. We got the same 3 categories. We have the division leaders, Detroit, Philly. Man, did Philly look good. Seattle and Atlanta. The wild card, Minnesota, Green Bay, Washington. Then you got the in the hunt crew. We'll get to the still got a chance if they get hot crew after this. Rodney, take me through it. What are you seeing, thinking, looking at the NFC side?
Hey, can we go back? Can we go back to the list, please? I'm looking at Tampa Bay and Atlanta. I know Atlanta's in that 4 spot, but right now I have more confidence in Tampa Bay with Baker Mayfield, a healthy Mike Evans, Bucky Irvin's running the football. I like the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Coach, I'm interested to hear what you got to say about that division.
Yeah, I do too. I like where Tampa Bay's sitting. They've got winnable games coming up. Atlanta has really struggled these last 4 or 5 weeks, putting together consistent ball. I look at that wild card 5-6, and that division's not settled yet. Okay, Detroit's 10-1, but Green Bay's playing good ball, and Minnesota's playing good ball. So we'll see what happens there. I like Tampa Bay to come on in the South. And then the West, I think it's just going to be a dogfight all the way down to the last game. I'm not sure who is the favorite there. We were talking about that Sunday night, and I don't know who you give the edge to in the West right now, Rob.
I don't know either, Coach.
I don't know either.
I
still can't count San Francisco
the Rams,
out.
I was thinking the same thing. San Francisco, they've been there, they've done that. Yeah, it's hard to let them go.
Yeah, and I agree, because nobody else is playing that outstanding ball. We just say, well, somebody's going to pull away from the pack. I don't think they will. And if San Francisco can right the ship, get everybody healthy, get Kittle back playing the role that we're used to seeing him play, and then they've got that mentality. They've been there before. I think if it comes down to the wire and you've got all these teams in it, I wouldn't bet against San Francisco.
It still feels like they're the team that you should trust. They haven't exactly played like it. I mean, we've seen the Rams flash at moments when they had Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp healthy, and they've looked really good. I worry about them with the physicality of the top of the NFC, though, going up against, I know we've seen them play good against Detroit. We've seen them beat Detroit. I don't see them beating Detroit if they get to the playoffs or they get down that line again this year. We've seen them against Philly. We just saw that, and they just got physically worn out as that game went along. I wonder how many more years you have this. I think it's going to be maybe 1, maybe 2 more years where you have Stafford and Kupp. And we already saw them try to trade away Cooper Kupp. How much longer does this core of guys, it's getting a little older, this core, how much longer does this Rams group stay together as it's put together right now?
Yeah, I think this is the last year for Cooper.
Yeah, I do too.
Go ahead, Coach.
No, I agree with you. I think this is a year that they've got to do some things, make some noise. If they do, maybe we try it one more year. But if we don't make the playoffs or we get bounced in the first round, then you retool.
I'm with you. I'm totally with you. You said you think it's the last because they can get out of Cooper Kupp's contract after this year. Even Stafford has an out in his contract. He took a lot of beating in Detroit before he ever got to LA. You just wonder how much longer he's thinking about playing. What are your thoughts on LA, Rod?
Well, I think they're going to definitely move on from Cooper Kupp. But also, I just think, have to reallocate some of those resources to the offensive line. If you're Matthew Stafford, I go in and say, hey, we have to improve this offensive line. He continues to take big hits. And then, think about on the defensive side. You talked about them getting physically manhandled. Yeah, they have a lot of talented guys up front, but that's a big concern, Coach, when you start talking about, dealing with Philly, dealing with San Francisco, a lot of these teams, even the Buccaneers, how physical their run game is. And even the Cardinals, man, with James Conner, they're physical. So you're right, Jack, at the top of the NFC, throughout the NFC, these teams are very physical running the football.
Mm-hmm. All right, well, we have a bunch of big Week 13 matchups. So let's get to this. The big games coming up. Feel free to put that graphic up, Berkey. This is what it looks like. A whole lot of games. Dolphins and Packers. We're just talking about the NFC and what the Packers are, the AFC, what the Dolphins are. That on Thanksgiving night, huge game for the Dolphins after those losses they took with Tua being out. Coach, I'll start with you here. Top of mind looking at these games, Week 13.
Well, I'm looking at Dolphins Packers for sure because Miami has to prove a point. They've got to not only win to keep inching towards that playoff race, but they've got to prove a point. We can do this on the road. We can do this against a good team, and we can do it in cold weather. Right now, we've got question marks on all of those, Rodney.
Yeah, I'm looking at the Chargers at the Falcons, and the Chargers going to have to deal. Defensively, they're going to have to deal with a really physical run game in the Atlanta Falcons. That's going to be a tough game. They got to travel all the way from the West Coast down here to down south, and that's going to be a heck of a matchup right there. And the Falcons, I believe this is a must-win for the Falcons as well as the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are playing. I think you send a message not only to the Chargers but to the league. If you're the Falcons, you've struggled like you talked about the last month of the season. Interesting to see how their kicking game turns out with young Wei Koo, who struggled the last game.
And then you've got Eagles, Ravens, okay? And we've seen both of these teams back-to-back nights, dominant running games, power football. Well, now the Eagles, they're trying to catch Detroit for the number 1 seed. Ravens are trying to catch the Steelers for the AFC North. And the Eagles have a day advantage. And that's a big thing in a big physical type game like this. Ravens coming off a long road trip Monday night. You've got to come back and play on Sunday with one less day rest. Will that make a difference?
That's a
good
point.
Coach, you're right. One day, it's an excellent point because one day makes a huge difference. The difference between your body, the way your body feels from one day to the next is a huge difference, Coach. Talking about soreness and even the emotional part about it, the mental part of it, because, these guys have been playing a lot of football since the spring. They've been pounding, they've been going at it. And, it's just one of those situations now where one day could really change your body and change your mind.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And not to mention, when you're taking that West Coast flight, you're leaving at, almost midnight. You're not sleeping that whole night. You're getting home about 7 a.m. You're trying to catch up on sleep on that Monday. That's just the reality of when you're playing those West Coast kind of games. Let's get to who's taking care of business. The take care of business games is what Coach calls. I like this. You just got to take care of business. Explain what this means here, Coach Dungy.
Well, in this one, Jack, you've got teams who are in the playoff hunt playing teams that they should beat or teams that they're favored against. And this is when the maturity comes through. Okay, we're playing, we're the Lions, we're at home, we're playing the Bears, we should beat them. Can we do what we're supposed to do? And we've got the teams in the yellow that they're in that category. You expect them to win, but there were a couple of games last week that didn't turn out that way. The Commanders were playing at home last week against Dallas. They didn't take care of business. The Texans were playing at home against the Titans. They didn't take care of business. And those games will haunt you if you don't do that. So what do you think here, Rod? Do you see any possible upsets here?
Yeah, I'm looking at the Giants at the Cowboys, and I know those guys were upset, and maybe they can take all that negative energy and put it out into the field and put a great product out there. And plus, I don't trust the Cowboys. You never know which team is going to show up, but also the Titans at the Commanders. Heck, we don't know what the Commanders are. They're a different team than what we previously had talked about, Coach. But I tell you this, the Patriots, too, at the Colts, that's one of those games. I mean, the Colts at the Patriots, that's one of those games that the Patriots could definitely kind of pull up that upset. Those are the 3 games I'm looking at.
I agree. And I'm looking at the Jets and the Seahawks. Seattle has a big, big win, gets themselves back in first place at home. Now they've got to go on the road, go all the way across country, play the Jets. Oh, this is the team. We watched the Jets on tape. They're not very good. You better be ready to go.
Yeah. And I just think about it.
And you think about it, Aaron Rodgers.
Go ahead, Rob.
And I was going to say, Aaron Rodgers has a lot to prove, so he's going to come ready to play. I mean, these are opportunities. You get to the latter part of the season, the general managers, the coaches, everybody's looking at how you finish. It doesn't matter how you started, what happened kind of in the middle part. At the end of the day, they're looking at, the last 6, 7 games. Are you playing hard? Are you communicating? Are you still engaged? Are you doing all the little things to make sure that you're, giving your team and giving yourself the best chance to have success?
Yeah, I'm still thinking about the Dolphins and the Packers on Thanksgiving. That's just such a big game this week. And if I'm designing a team, like I'm thinking about this time of year. Like we saw Philly, they're big, they're physical, they're weatherproof as a team. Detroit, I really feel like it's the same thing. Other than maybe Goff, you may worry a little bit about him if you get him in cold weather. Although we've seen him do it, we saw him do it in Green Bay. But that style just translates so well to this time of the year. I don't know that I would want to build a team where we get to December, January, February, and you start going, oh, no, I don't know that Tua in this offense is going to go travel after we've been playing in 75-degree weather. Rodney, go ahead. Is that a crazy thought? I mean, it just seems to make so much sense.
That's an excellent point, Jack. And we saw it in Kansas City. We saw those Dolphins, and we saw them during the spring, the summer, the high flying, scoring a lot of points. And as soon as it got 20 degrees outside or 8 degrees, they shut that down. And that's the thing, when you play as a defense against teams like that, it pumps you up even more because you know you can be physical. You know you can get your hands on them. You know you can grab them and hold them, and the receiver's going to get frustrated and yell and scream. He's holding me. He's grabbing me toward the receiver. Those are the things that you look for when you're playing against teams like that in the cold weather.
And Jac, you talked about putting a team together like that. Your thought process is when you build it, we've got to win enough games, and we will win enough games that we'll be at home in the playoffs in January. And if that works out that way, that's great. But if it doesn't, and we ran into that many, many years going up to New England, we'd win 13 games, but they won 14. And we had to go to New England, and it's 0 degrees and snowing. And now all of a sudden our offense isn't the same. So that is a little bit of a problem. Green Bay has put together a different type of team, Rodney. Josh Jacobs now, and they're pounding the football. This is not a finesse team. So it's going to be a big, big test for the Dolphins.
Amen. Amen. That's what makes the NFL so fun, though. Coach, to your point, it's all those taking care of business games. Sure, the big games, but the taking care, because those are what add up. And that's what determines whether you're at home, you're in the Dome, you're going into New England, or you're going into all these crazy places, Buffalo, and it's snowy and windy, and it's a different game. So, gentlemen, we really appreciate it. Buffalo is going to be cold as heck. Pack the coats. There's going to be wind. There's going to be snow. Lord knows what else there may be, gentlemen. I look forward to seeing you guys out there. We'll see you 7 p.m. NBC for a little bit. See you guys.
Let's go.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.